ينفق, and you can make it light. Then in the word this, ayah 21 and 99 of Surah Yusuf and ayah number 51 of Surah Zukhruf, you can make it either heavy or light, again just depending on what is easier. I find it personally it's easier to make it heavy because the letter before is also heavy. Like for example, mirsu. So the tongue is already raised, it's easier to just make it heavy rather than switching. But again, it just depends on you. You do have the choice. If you find it easier to say it light, that is also fine. So these are the three different words in the Quran in which you have the choice of making it heavy or light, depending on if you're stopping or continuing. And then all the rest of them will follow the letters of Ra, the rules of Tafkhim and Tarqiq that we went over. And inshallah, next week we will go over them again. Now let's look at our lesson, and we're going to pay special attention to the heavy and light Ra, and we will point them out, inshallah, when we see them. So starting from ayah number 261, so we start off with مثل الذين ينفقون, Qaf is going to be heavy, أموالهم, Mim is going to have tawassut, rest upon this mim, في سبيل الله, Allah here is going to be light, the letter before has kasra, في سبيل الله, كمثل حبة أنبتت, so here حبة, this is going to be إظهار, أنبتت, this is إقلاب, you see that small mim, سبع سنابل في كل سنبلة, again this is إقلاب, you see that small mim, مئة حبة, والله, Allah here is heavy, يضاعف, Dad is going to be heavy, لمن يشاء, this is a 4-count med. Also we have the letter Hamza with a sukun. Hamza we learned is a letter of jahr, meaning that the sound is not going to flow once we stop the makhraj. So we don't want to say yasha. We are going to have a sharp jerk because there is no sound flow. Yasha. So make sure you stop completely on this Hamza and you make sure that you have that jerk. Otherwise, it can be like you are completely skipping over the Hamza. So we want to hear that jerking sound. Yasha. When we stop on a Hamza with a sukun. Then we have the word Wallahu here is going to be heavy. Wasi'un alim. Both of these ayn are from the throat. Also this is going to be idhar. الذين ينفقون, Qaf is going to be heavy. أموالهم, Mim will have tawassut. في سبيل الله, Allah is going to be light. ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا, this is a 4-count med. مَنًّا وَلَا, this is going to be idgham. وَلَا, this is a 4-count med. أَدَلَّهُمْ, again this is idgham. لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ, Ra here is going to be heavy. So we have Ra with a dhamma. So we learned that anytime Ra has dhamma, it is going to be heavy. لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ, Ra is heavy. عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, again the Ra is heavy. Why? Because it has a fatha. رَبِّهِمْ. وَلَا خَوْفٌ, Kha is going to be permanently heavy. عَلَيْهِمْ, Mim has tawassut. وَلَا هُمْ, again Mim has tawassut. يَحْزَنُونَ, this is a 4-count mud. يَحْزَنُونَ, when we are stopping. قَوْلٌ, Qaf is going to be heavy. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ, so all of these are going to be idgham. We are merging them together. وَمَغْفِرَةٌ, مَعْرُوف, both of these Ra are going to be heavy. So the first Ra, we have a dhamma, Ra is heavy, and then also in Maghfirah, Ra again is heavy because it has a fatha. Then we have khayrun, again Ra is heavy because it has a dhammatain. Khayrun min sadaqatin, Sad is heavy, Dal is light, Qaf is heavy. So switch from heavy to light. Sadaqatin, Sad heavy, Dal light, Qaf heavy. يتبعها, this is a 4-count med. أذى, Wallahu, Allah here is going to be heavy. غني حليم, this is going to be idhar. يا أيها, this is a 4-count med. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا, Ba is going to have qalqala, there is that bouncing sound. Ba is heavy. تبطلوا صدقاتكم, again Sad is heavy, Dal is light, Qaf is heavy, Tha is light. So we're going to switch very fast. Heavy, light, heavy, light. صدقاتكم, so switch between that heavy and light makhraj. بالمن والأذى, Lam is going to have a tawassut. كالذي ينفق, Qaf is going to be heavy. ما له رئاء الناس, Ra in this case is going to be light because it has a kasra. رئاء, and then also this is a 4-count med. رئاء الناس. وَلَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ, here Allah is going to be light. billahi wal yawmil akhir. Lam is going to have, here it's going to be tawassut. Wal yawmil akhir. Ra is going to be light. The letter before has kasra and then Ra has a sukun. So we are going to switch from heavy kha to a light Ra. Yawmil akhir. فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ صَفْوَانٍ. Sad is going to be heavy. صَفْوَانٍ عَلَيْهِ تُرَابٌ. Ra is going to be heavy. Ra has a fatha. فَأَصَابَهُ. Sad is heavy. وَابِلٌ فَتَرَكَهُ. So here, da is light. Ra is heavy, kaf is light. So Ra is heavy here because it has a fatha, and then we are going to switch between light to heavy to light. So we don't want da to be heavy, we don't want kaf to be heavy. Fatarakahu. So again, don't say fatarakahu, or don't say fatarakahu. So we want to switch light, heavy, light. Fatarakahu. Solda, sad is heavy, lam will have tawassut, dal is light. لا يقدرون, قاف is going to have قلقلة, there is that bouncing sound. يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا. والله, Allah here is heavy. لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. All of these lam are going to have tawassut. And then the ra here is going to be light because it has a kasra. Al-kafirin. So ra is going to be light. Just one thing I wanted to point out. So a couple of times in these ayats, we have the letter dhal. So dhal is the one with the dot on top. So try not to read it as a dal. Dal and dhal are different letters. So make sure that you have the correct makhraj for that. Also, we don't want a za sound. So it is not wal aza, it's wal adha. Kalladhi, not kallazi. So try not to have that zay sound, otherwise you can change the makhraj of the letter. So just because it did come in a couple of times, I wanted to point that out. So for example, in wal-adha, kalladhi, so in all of these cases, this is the letter dhal, not zal or dal. So this is just something that I wanted to point out because it did come a few times in these ayats. So now, inshallah, we are done with the topic of the heavy and light ra. Inshallah, next week we are going to do one final review because there are a lot of conditions. So we're just going to go over all of the conditions of heavy and light ra before, inshallah, moving on to the next topic. So now it is time for the tafsir portion of our class, so I will end it here. Jazakallahu khairan kathiran, everyone. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamulaikum wa rahmatullahi wa wabarakatuhu.
The recording has started.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين.
آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuhu. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدنا علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا طيبا اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah, we're going to cover ayah 261 to 264 of Surah Al-Baqarah today. Let's go over the word meanings first. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ayah 261. مثل, example. الذين, of those who. ينفقون, they spend. Nifaq is the root word here, infaq, which means to spend. And you in the beginning means this word is in the third person, and una ending makes it plural. So yunfiquna, they spend. Amwala, this is plural of mal, which means wealth. So amwala, wealth. Hum, theirs. Fi, in. Sabili, way. Allahi, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kamathali, ka. The short kaf fatha in the beginning, that prefix, that means like. Mathali, example. Habbatin, a grain. Ambatat, it grew. The it refers to habba here, that comes right before this word. So ambatat, it grew. Sab'a, seven. Sanabila, ears. Fi, in. Kulli, each. Sumbulatin, ear. So sumbul is actually the singular form of the word sanabil. Sanabil is plural. So sanabila, ears. Fi, in. Kulli, every or each. Sumbulatin, ear. Mi'atu, mi'atu means 100. Habbatin, of grains. Wallahu, wa and Allahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yudha'ifu, he increases or he doubles, manifold. Liman, li, for. Man, whoever. Yasha'u, he wills. Wallahu, wa and Allahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wasi'un, is infinitely vast, all-embracing. Alimun, one always all-knowing. These are both attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alladhina, those who. Yunfikuna, they spend. And again, this comes from infaq, which means to spend, so the same word as we covered above. Yunfikuna, they spend. Amwalahum, amwal, wealth, hum, theirs. Fi, in. Sabili, path or way. Allahi, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thumma, then. La, not. Yutbi'una. Taba'a means to follow. You in the beginning means this word is in the third person, and una ending makes it plural. So yutbi'una, they follow or pursue. Ma, whatever. Anfaqu, they spend. This is the same word, infaq, but this is it is a verb still, and it ends in waw sukun, so it's plural. Okay, so anfaqu, they spend. Mannan, as reminding or reminders of or favors. Okay, man means to remind of the favor you did somebody. So mannan, as reminding favors. Wa and la, not. Adha. Adhan or adha means harming or injury. Lahum, la, for. Hum, them. Ajruhum, ajru, reward. Hum, theirs. Inda, near. Rabbihim, Rabb means Lord or Master, Sustainer. Him, theirs. Wa and la, not. Khawfun, any fear. Alayhim, alay, upon him, them. Wa and la, not. Hum, they. Yahzanun, they will grieve. Huzan is the root word. Ha-za-nun, and that means grief. Ya in the beginning means this word is in the third person, and the una ending makes it plural. So it means they. So yahzanun, they will grieve. Qawlun, qawl means a word, something you say. Ma'rufun, one recognized for being good, one that is approved. Wa and maghfiratun, forgiveness. Khairun, better. Min, than. Sadaqatin, a charity. Yatba'uha, yatba'u means it follows. Ha, it. Adha, injury or harm. And Allahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ghaniyun, is free of want or self-sufficient. And this is one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes. And so is the next one, which is Halim, which means that He is always most forbearing. He is the most tolerant. He has Hilm, so He is very tolerant. Ya ayyuha alladhina. Ya ayyuha means oh, alladhina, those who amanu, they believed. La, do not. Tubetilu. Tubetilu means you waste. Batala is the root word here. Batalam, batil, which means falsehood. Okay, so tu in the beginning means you. So tubetilu, you make falsehood mean you nullify or you waste. Sadaqatikum. Sadaqat means charities. Kum, yours. Bil manni, be, with or by. Al, the man, reminders of favors. Wa, and. Al adha. Al means the, adha, injury or harm. Kalladhi, ka, like. Alladhi, the one who. Yunfiku, he spends. Malahu, mala, wealth. Who, his. Ri'a, ri'a means to be seen, to show off. An-nasi, the people or mankind. Wa, and. La, not. Yu'minu, he believes. Iman is the root word here, and that means to believe. You in the beginning means this word is in the third person. So yu'minu, he believes. Be in Allahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa, and. Al-yawmi, the day. Al-akhir, the last. فَمَثَلُهُ, fa, so mathalu, example. Who, his. Ka, like. Mathali, example. Safwanin, a smooth, hard stone. So Safwan is a rock that is smooth on top, but it's very hard on the inside. So Safwan, a smooth, hard rock. Alayhi, upon it. Turabun, some dust. Fa, then. Asaba, it reached. Asaba means to hit, to afflict. So fa asaba, then reached. Who, it. Wabilun, heavy rain. Fatarakahu, fa, so taraka, it left. Who, it. Solda, bare. La, not. Yaqdiruna, they have power or the ability. Ala, upon. Shay'in, anything. Mimma, min and ma, this is a compound word. Min means from, and ma, what. Kasabu, they earned. This is plural, we know because it ends in waw sukun. Wa, and. Allahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La, does not. Yahdi, he guides. This comes from the word huda, which means guidance. Ya in the beginning means he. So Yahdi, he guides. Al-Qawmi, the nation or the people. Al-Kafirin, those who disbelieve. Kufr is the root word, and that means to disbelieve or deny. So Al-Kafir means the disbeliever, and ina ending makes it plural. So Al-Kafirin, the disbelievers. Alhamdulillah. Now we'll start with the tafsir or the explanation of these ayat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ayah 261. مثل, example. الذين, of those who ينفقون, they spend. أموالهم, their wealth. في سبيل الله, in the way of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example of people who spend something they love in the way of Allah and how they will be rewarded for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in an ayah already before to spend out of what He has given us before the day comes when no intercession will be accepted and no friend will be there to help and no trade will take place. Now, we are learning about those who spend in the way of Allah in the best way possible. Afterwards, we'll learn about the worst way to spend, which includes usury or interest, and that is forbidden. And after that, we'll learn about loans, and those are permissible. Those, inshallah, we're going to do in the coming weeks. So for now, we're going to learn about spending in the way of Allah. The example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ, like a grain, أَنْبَتَتْ سَبْعَ سَنَابِلَ, that sprouts into 7 ears. في كل سنبلة مئة حبة, each bearing 100 grains. Imagine corn on the cob, how it has so many little kernels on it. This comes from just one piece of corn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares this example to those who spend in the way of Allah. If someone spends $1 in his way, it is multiplied by 7 and then by 100. So that person will be given the reward of $700. But suppose that the seed is not good, the seed that they planted. Nothing will grow out of it. Likewise, if you spend in the way of Allah, but you do it to show off, or you had the intention of wanting to please others, not just to seek Allah's approval, or maybe that money had been earned in a forbidden way, then we get nothing for it. Also, if you don't plant that seed, it will not grow. You have to plant it first for it to grow. That's how money is when it just sits in your bank account, or if it's just kept at home. Only when it's spent in the way of Allah will it be multiplied to $700 for each dollar that you spend. Wallahu yudaifu liman yasha, and Allah gives manifold increase to whom He wishes. He can give even 800 for 1 grain, or 1,000, or without measure, so much that you won't even be able to count it. 700 is the minimum you'll get if it is spent in the way of Allah with sincerity, or it will be multiplied even more. Now, who does He increase for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows how much you spent in your situation, whatever time you were going through, if it was easy for you or not. According to Hadith, we learned that sometimes $1 that is spent counts even more than $1,000. For example, if someone has only $100 and they spend in the way of Allah, $1 out of it, it's more valuable than someone else who has millions and they give $1,000 or $10,000 from it. So the $1 is more valuable than the other person's 1,000 or 10,000. Allah knows everyone's situation, and He knows their intentions, and He knows that the person who gave less spent even though that small amount was difficult for him to spend. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need quantity from us. He is ghani. He doesn't need your money. He just values what is given with sincerity to earn His approval, especially when that person needs it himself too. We judge according to what we see, but Allah is wasi'un alim. He is all-embracing and always all-knowing. He knows everything. He knows when someone spends in His way happily and when someone doesn't want to, but they just give. He also knows when someone spends in His way when they're going through financial issues themselves, through tough times, or when someone spends because they're easily able to do it. He knows the difference. You may think, how can that be possible, that we spend $1 and He gives us 700? There's no worldly investment that guarantees that increase, because imagine spending 100 and having it increased to 70,000 or even more. People are surprised by this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that we are not dealing with people here. We're not dealing with humans where they count and then they give. We are dealing with Allah, the owner of everything, the one who is infinitely vast. There's a hadith, hadith Qudsi, that explains how vast Allah is. Hadith Qudsi is a statement of Allah. Okay, and it explains how vast He is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "O my slaves, all of you are astray, except for those I have guided. So seek guidance from me, and I shall guide you. You are all needy, except for the one I enrich. So ask me, and I'll provide for you. You are all sinful, except for the ones I protect. So whoever out of you knows that I'm able to forgive and asks for forgiveness, I shall forgive you. O my slaves, you will not harm me nor benefit me. O my slaves, if the first and the last of you were as pious as the heart of the most pious man of you, that would not increase my kingdom in anything." This means that if we fast or pray a lot, whatever good deeds we do, it doesn't benefit Him at all. It's for our own selves that we do these things. O my slaves, if the first and the last of you were to be as evil as the most evil one of you, that would not decrease my kingdom in anything. O my slaves, if the first of you to the last of you all were to rise up in one place and make a request of me, and I gave everyone all they requested, that would not decrease what I have, any more than a needle decreases the sea if put into it. Subhanallah. This is a Tirmidhi hadith, that if Allah gave us all that, His treasure would not decrease in the least bit. He is so vast that He has been spending out of His treasures since this earth was created, and they still do not decrease at all. Not just treasures of wealth, but He also has treasures of honor, of knowledge, health, children, peace, and He is wasi'un. He is not stingy. He never complains that we're asking Him over and over again after He just gave us something. If people ask others, they say, "Oh, I just gave you something yesterday. Why are you here again?" But Allah does not do that. There's a hadith that we should memorize and remind each other as well. And it goes like this. Anfiq, unfiq alayk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, spend. Anfiq means spend. It's a command. Unfiq will be spent alayk, on you. So He basically means spend, and I will spend on you. It's very easy to remember, just 3 words. So let's try to memorize it. Anfiq, unfiq alayk. When Allah tells us to spend, how much can we possibly give? We can only spend according to what we have, which isn't much. But when He says He will spend on us, we cannot even imagine how much He can give. He increases so much when He gives it back to us, even if we spend a little bit. He gives us a lot in return. That's why there's a hadith that tells us that for anyone who gives even 1 date with sincerity in the way of Allah, it will be increased to the size of Mount Uhud on the Day of Judgment. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Now we'll learn about what needs to be done to have Allah increase what we give in His way. What do we need to do? So He says, those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah, thumma, then, meaning a little later. What usually happens when people give someone money in the way of Allah? they start to remind them of that favor. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ لَا يُتْبِعُونَ مَا أَنفَقُوا مَنًّا وَلَا عَذَى. Then they do not follow up their charity with reminders of their generosity or injure the feeling of the recipient. لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They shall get their reward from their Lord. So this is only for those who don't say hurtful things or remind people of times when they helped them. They forget that they even helped that person, and they don't expect special treatment from that person. If someone donated towards a masjid, they don't expect to be honored and receive special treatment just because they donated for that project. If they expect to be treated better than others just because of their donations or the services they provided, it will all go to waste. If we think about it, so many times people end up saying hurtful things to others, and that causes the reward to be lost. Sometimes people care for an orphan for so many years until he is fully grown, and when he's a grown-up person, a grown man, and he doesn't respect them the way they expected him to, they remind him in a rude way that they are the ones who helped raise him all those years. As soon as they do this, all their past efforts go to waste. Nothing counts anymore. It goes to waste here when he doesn't respect them because they don't get what they expect in this life, and it gets wasted in the hereafter as well because they won't be rewarded for doing it. We have developed such bad habits that we even say to our kids sometimes that we did so much for them. And we do the same with others too. We keep reminding them of everything we've done for them. People expect the other person to appreciate it when they give them anything. And if they don't appreciate it, that person's ego is hurt. Because when they gave that person something, they thought they were being so great. They expected that person to thank them, to appreciate it. And once their ego is hurt, they say things of man and adha. And it doesn't just happen with spending wealth. Sometimes people spend time or effort in the way of Allah, and they expect others to appreciate it. If they complain that people don't appreciate what they do, they lose their honor before Allah. If they were doing that work to be recognized by people, they don't have any reward in the hereafter for it. So on the day of judgment, Allah will tell them to go to people, to go to those people who they did it for, and ask them for that reward. When they don't do it for Allah, it will not benefit them in any way. Many people start doing work with sincerity. Any type of work they do for Allah, they started off with sincerity, but they want to be appreciated afterwards. As time passes, they get used to people saying good things about them, and they expect to be appreciated. This is how people are with their kids and families also. They expect them to say good things about them. And if they don't appreciate what they do, they stop doing everything. Whatever they were doing for them, they stopped doing it. They complain that they did so much for so many years and didn't get anything in return, that nobody appreciates them. So they don't want to do anything for others anymore. They should remember that if they did it to please people, those people are weak, just like us, just like them. And they're needy like them. That's why whatever they did should have been for Allah, because He would have rewarded them immensely for it. Because He is wasi', He is ghani. So we should not expect others to appreciate us. One thing to note here is that we often expect this after spending anything on someone close to us. It's easy for us to forget after helping the needy. But when it's someone around us, like relatives or friends, we expect them to treat us better after we do anything for them. But if they don't, and we end up mentioning what we did for them, either to them or other people, it all goes to waste. So we should never follow what we give with reminders of it. Leave them alone after giving something to them and let them do what they want. Just think, I have given it to Allah, so there's no need to hurt the other person by saying bad things now. It's hard to spend out of your wealth and time, but once you do spend it in the way of Allah, be very careful, because Shaitan tries to make it go to waste. Just forget about it after you do it. Don't even think about it again. Don't expect others to appreciate it, and ask Allah to grant you out of His treasures. When you do anything for Allah, it's better if nobody knows about it. Because when people get to know about it, you don't know when Shaitan will make you show off about it, and it will all go to waste. So for those who spend anything in the way of Allah without following with reminders of it or hurtful words, لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, their reward is with their Lord. So remember, only those who spend without man and adha will have their reward with their Lord. Not everyone who spends. Only someone with a big heart would be able to move on after doing anything good for someone without ever mentioning it to anyone. And only that person can continue to do more good deeds, forgetting whatever he did for others in the past. May Allah make us like those people. Aameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And they will have nothing to fear or to regret. On the day when everyone will be so afraid, everyone will be terrified, those people will not have to be afraid. They will be under the shade of the throne of Allah, if they give in the way of Allah with one hand without even letting the other hand know about it. So of course those people never reminded others what they did. Okay, whenever they did anything for them. And even in this life, people are so content when they do something for others and they forget about it afterwards. They have no expectations from others. However, those who do things for others and expect to be recognized for what they do, appreciated for it, they end up being hurt. And they're never happy, even after reminding others of their favors and hurting the other people's feelings. Because that person just constantly thinks about why others didn't appreciate him. And that person complains that people are so selfish, that they don't value you or they don't appreciate you the way you should be. Why do they do that? They end up saying this because they expected those people to do something in return for what they did for them. And when the other person doesn't do anything for them in return, they complain. If they had not wanted anything from them and only wanted the reward from Allah, they would have been so content. And Allah would have given them so much in return for what they spent or for whatever they did. Only if they had hoped for the reward from Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allahumma ja'alna minhum. Aameen. Oh Allah, make us of those people, the ones who don't follow with reminders or hurt after doing anything. Aameen. Their reward is with their Lord, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur. He values every penny you spend in His way, and every hour, every minute and second that you spend in His way. What you do for Him does not go to waste. In fact, that's what actually has been saved out of everything we do or have in life. Whatever is spent in His way is saved for us, for our eternal lives. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us now that if you're going to give charity and follow it with hurtful words or reminders of the favor, it's better to just say something kind and forgive. This means that it's better to not give the one who asked you for something. If you're going to do hurtful things after it, if you're going to hurt their feelings, just say something kind to that person instead of helping them and then embarrassing them later on, disgracing them afterwards. Say something kind and ask them to excuse you. If the one who asks you for anything keeps coming back and asking again and again, just say kind words instead of saying bad things to them. Don't question them and be asking why they're here again or why they're bothering you. Just say something kind. Tell them that you're sorry, that you can't help them. Wallahu ghaniyyun hamid. And remember, you are dealing with the one who is self-sufficient. The one you want to spend in the way of is ghani. He doesn't need your money. So remember that you are giving it to him, not the person you see in front of you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَأَمَّا السَّائِلُ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. As for the one who comes to ask you for something, don't yell at him. Give him something if you can. But if you can't, don't yell at that person. Even if you say no, do it in a nice way, saying something kind, and think that you're saying it to Allah, not the one asking you. According to Hadith, there will be a time when people will look for someone to give charity to, but there won't be anyone who will need it. So people will want to do this good deed, but nobody will take that charity from them. They'll say that they would have taken it if they went to them a day earlier, but they don't need it anymore. You may think that people who build hospitals and masajid and do all these projects, that they will always keep asking for money. And organizations that help the needy will always expect you to donate for them. They'll always take your donations. Or that people who ask for money will always keep asking. But this will not always be the case. People should be grateful that they have the chance to spend in the way of Allah. So they should say something good. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ أَوْ مَغْفِرَةٌ, or forgiveness. When people act like they're tired of giving, they should remember that Allah is ghani, and He is the one they are spending it for. He doesn't need their money. He has actually given them a chance to do something good. He has honored them by giving them that chance. And He is Halim. He is tolerant, the most forbearing. He overlooks people's faults even after they do all these things. They mistreat others after helping them. Okay, so even when they act that way, He overlooks their faults. يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O believers, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Do not make your charity worthless by reminders of your generosity or by hurting the recipient's feelings. If there is man or adha involved with what you spend in the way of Allah, it's like multiplying that amount by 0. No matter how much you give, no matter how big that amount is, it gets multiplied by 0. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to try to protect our charity so it does not go to waste. He doesn't give us the example of a stingy person here who doesn't spend in the way of Allah, but He tells us that someone who follows with reminders of generosity or hurts someone's feelings after giving to them, after helping them, that person is like someone who does spend in the way of Allah, but كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ. He spends it to be seen by the people. Whatever that person spends goes to waste as well. And when people spend their wealth to show off to others, they want others to think that they're so great. They don't care what Allah thinks of them. They are worried about what other people think of them. Even if someone thinks for a second if it comes to mind what others may be thinking about them when they spend in the way of Allah, their sadaqah or charity goes to waste. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wallahu yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir. And he does not believe in Allah or the Day of Judgment. If we think about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the believers here. This ayah started out with Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. But what does he warn us about? He decided that the person who spends to show off to people does not believe in Allah and the Day of Judgment. Why? Because that person's beliefs are not firm. If they're doing something to show off to others, they don't believe in Allah. If they had believed in Allah, they would have known that Allah has seen what that person did already. He knows already. So that person should not have even bothered to show other people. So anyone who spends his wealth to be seen by people, it's like he doesn't even believe in Allah. Otherwise, he wouldn't have felt the need to tell anyone or make them aware of what he did. He would have thought that whoever I did it for knows already. So Allah declares that the person who does good deeds to be seen by people is not a true believer. He doesn't believe in Allah or the Day of Judgment. Why the Day of Judgment? Because he wants people to praise him here in this life, so that they think he's so great or he's so important. If he believed in the hereafter, he would have wanted the reward for it in the hereafter. He would have known that he will need these good deeds the most on the Day of Judgment. But he wanted to benefit from whatever he did in this life. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, whoever fasts, prays, or gives charity to be seen by people has done shirk, meaning he has associated partners with Allah. And we know that out of the 3 people who will be the first to be the fuel of Jahannam, one of them will be the one who gave Allah in the way of Allah. When Allah will ask him what he did for Allah, he will say that he gave whatever he had in Allah's way. And Allah will reply, you did not give whatever you did for me. You didn't give it for me. You gave it so people will think you are so generous, that you are giving so much. And you got that fame and the praise that you were looking for in life. There's nothing left for you here. So any good deed anyone does, if it is done with ri'ah, meaning showing off, it's like multiplying it by 0. So of course the result is 0. It goes to waste. Whether it's praying salah, fasting, learning the Quran, helping someone, or giving in the way of Allah. If we start to think about what other people may be thinking of us when we do these good deeds, and we want to impress others, it goes to waste. Sometimes we work so hard to do things, and sometimes we're even able to do important things, really good things, but shaitan lets us do them at that time because he knows what's going to happen afterwards. Because afterwards he makes us show off in such a way that it all goes to waste. So we should worry about saving our good deeds after doing anything. This is explained by an example here. فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ صَفْوَانٍ. That person's example is like a smooth, hard rock. It feels smooth on the outside, but it's hard on the inside. عَلَيْهِ تُرَابٌ. Upon it is some dust. The soil on top makes it look like they can plant something on it. And when you look at it, you see the soil. So you think you can plant something in it. So someone plants a seed there, and then something starts growing out of it. فَأَصَابَهُ وَابِلٌ. Then a heavy rain reaches it. فَتَرَكَهُ سَلْدًا. leaving it just a bare rock. Why? Because everything got washed away. All the plants that were growing on the rock had no proper roots. They were just growing on top. If the seed had been planted in the earth, in the ground, lots of plants and vegetation would have grown from it, multiplying. But because it was planted on top of a rock in a little bit of soil, it all got washed away. The rock was left bare. This example tells us what showing off does to people's good deeds. That's how it gets rid of people's good deeds. A person is like that smooth rock. It seems like he's doing so many good deeds, like the top of the rock that's green. People look at it and think how nice it is. So for that person, people think about how good that person is, so religious, doing so much in the way of Allah, or giving so much. But the one looking does not see what's inside of that person. Okay, just like the one looking at the rock doesn't see what's inside of it. It seems like it's just soil on top. So it will rain heavily once, and this false vegetation will all go to waste. It will flow away, like the plants on a rock. They're just there for show, but they don't last. It all goes after it rains just once. Likewise, when the day of judgment comes, all the good deeds people did for the wrong reasons will wash away. Nothing will be left of them, because they only intended for them to be seen by the people. They didn't do them to please Allah. Sometimes people do beautiful acts of worship, and they speak so well, but they do it to be seen by people, to show off. What they say, the beautiful things they say or pretend to be, does not come from inside. So you hear about them being unjust to people around them. You find out eventually that they're not fair to people around them, and they act so arrogantly, as if they're better than everyone else. They speak about the rights of the people, but then they're the ones who get jealous of others, and they hold grudges against people. Everyone is being tested here in life, because this life is a test. And it's these tests that show what's really inside of us. People like us fail at these times because we don't do what we normally say should be done. When we say that, oh, this is what should be done in a situation like this, when we're in that situation, we don't do it. That proves that we just said things to impress people, to convince people that we are so sensible and so pious and great. So whatever we said was for other people. We were just all talk. We didn't do anything to please Allah. We can impress people by doing good deeds in front of them to show off, but we cannot trick Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows all our intentions behind our actions. So the vegetation or the turab mentioned here is like the good deeds done to show off. And Safwan, or the smooth rock, are the intentions behind those deeds. When the heavy rain strikes, the wabil, on the day of judgment, فَتَرَكَهُ صَلْدًا, nothing is left. Even though it seemed like we were doing so much, all those good deeds got washed away. All that's left is the bare rock now. So everything they did, giving in the way of Allah, praying, reciting the Quran, being good to others, it all goes to waste at that time if they didn't do it for the right reasons. And if they had done it with the right intentions, they would have been rewarded 700 times for each good deed. After that heavy rain, their vegetation would have grown and multiplied. We'll learn about this in the next ayah, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from having our good deeds go to waste. Aameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. The one who sees people do those things thinks that they're so pious, and that person praises them because he doesn't know what they're thinking, what's inside of that person. And that person is tricked into thinking that they're really good, even though they have nothing inside. They are like that rock inside, from which nothing good can grow out of or increase. لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا. Those people will not get any reward for what they thought they had earned. All the good deeds they did work hard to do them, but all their investment went to waste because they did it for the wrong reasons. وَاللَّهُ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. And Allah does not guide the disbelievers. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the ungrateful people disbelievers. And those who started to disbelieve because they had no belief in Allah and the Day of Judgment. That's why they did good deeds to be seen by others. And this means that riya, or showing off, is kufr. It leads to disbelief. And that person does not have any iman left then. No faith. Doing things to be seen by people is not something believers do. This is what disbelievers and polytheists do. If we think about it, Muslims are all about showing off nowadays. But this isn't how true believers are supposed to be. Muslims now compete to display so much in their lives, to display everything. And they even show off their clothes and jewelry, shoes, homes, their cars, and even their kids' accomplishments to others. We have started to show off in every aspect because we have nothing inside. When people show off, they work hard to do it, to be able to do it. They use their energy, their time, and they spend their money. But the end result of it all is zero. It is wasted. But we still don't stop doing this because we just want to impress people. Why do we care so much about what people think? Once we start worrying only about what Allah thinks of us, we would stop trying so hard to impress others. And then we would be at peace. When we work so hard to please everyone else, nobody is happy at the end. Okay, nobody, because everybody wants you to behave or act in a different way. So at the end, none of them are happy. People get angry with us. Okay, because we can't be the way they want us to be 100%. So at the end, they still end up being angry. Okay, and of course, Allah is angry with us too if we don't do things for His approval. So that person just worries about others instead of working hard to please Allah. He just wants to make others think that he is so great because he does so much. But we should be worried about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks of us. And whatever good deeds we do should be done just to please Him, just to get His approval. So on the Day of Judgment, we can hear Him say, "You did well." That's all we should be aiming for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and protect us from showing off. Aameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم آمين يا رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.